And why are they making them then? If there's genuine things, why are they making? I suppose I've got two questions.
Yeah.
Why are the ET making them?
Yeah.
And why are people faking them? Is there a covert sort of operation trying to bad name the ETs? Not bad name, but to give the impression that humans are just behind the whole thing, like the Doug and Dave smart sort.
Totally, absolutely, that is the case, without a shadow of a doubt.
You've also got the fame factor, of course. You know, the notoriety of it.
There is that, but which encourages people. But the early people, you know, Team Satan, as they were called, they were, I believe, being paid to muddy the water, shall we say? Because, you know, in the genuine ones, Dave Cayton and I have found radiation,
right?
Quite high levels of radiation. I mean, the most we got was about 20 times normal background. I must explain that Dave was worked at British Aerospace.
Yeah,
his job, he was in charge for 20 odd years of the non-destructive testing of airframes. And for that they use radioactive isotopes to expose films, you know, on wings and things like that.
Yeah.
So and he was in charge of those isotopes at the site. So he knew all about radiation. Is what I'm saying.
He's not a novice.
He's not a novice. So he managed to get a Geiger counter,
handy,
which he borrowed from work, and in this particular crop circle at Pusey, we called it the Nautilus formation because it was like a Nautilus, the pattern, you know. And while we were in there, it was reading normal background radiation, and I was filming this, which was about 0.34 or 5 microsieverts, I think, on the scale. But as I was filming Dave, he suddenly was surprised to see the meter start to move upwards, and it went off that scale, and he had to change scales, and in the end, it was about 20 times normal background radiation. And I've filmed him, and you could hear the Geiger counter clicking away, you know, and he didn't think it was ionizing radiation, because well, what he did was he lowered the Geiger Muller tube to the ground, and then he lifted it off the ground and raised it up into the air. Now there's something called the inverse square law when it comes to radiation, and it drops off the further you get away from the radiation source. So if it had been in the ground, the meter would have dropped, you know, but it didn't. It stayed the same, which suggested to Dave that this radiation energy was all around us.
Right.
And in fact, without my permission, that Thrive, I think it's the Thrive video, used my footage.
Oh, crafty.
In there. I'm not bothered about it, but it is there if you happen to look at that. So Dave said, well, I tell you what, let's walk outside the crop circle and see if it goes. So that's what we did, and we got about 15 paces outside the crop circle, and the meter dropped right back to normal background radiation. So he marked it where in the tractor line where that was, and so he said, right, now let's go back in. And so I was filming him, and we went back in, and it stayed at normal background radiation all the way.
That's odd.
After that, so
that makes sense.
So what we're saying is it's a transient energy. It's not there all the time, which, oh God, jumping about, that's exactly what was discovered on the shores of Lake Ontario many years ago by a scientist called Wilbert Smith.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what he discovered, what was happening was aeroplanes were suddenly disintegrating in the sky above the shores, and they didn't know what it was. So he was tasked with the job of finding out what was causing it. It was a joint American-Canadian government thing, this, very high-powered. And what he found was that there were columns of energy going up from the ground up into the sky. And this energy disintegrated, basically, the aircraft. It affected the molecular cohesion of the metal. So the plane just fell apart, which is exactly what happened to Thomas Mantell at Godman Field in America when he flew his fighter plane too close to the underside of a big craft. And it disintegrated his plane and he was killed.
Now that was Lake Ontario you were saying about. Now we've interviewed a gentleman in Canada who's Niagara Falls, Steve
Boucher, was it?
Yeah, Boucher, I think, who's been taken aboard ET craft, Greys and things when he was a youngster and also as a teenager in rock bands in the early 70s.
I know the story.
Yeah, you know the guy. Yeah. Yep. So he said that one of them asked the ETs, "Where are you from, or do you have bases here?" And they said, "Yeah, in this lake here," which was Lake Ontario.
Absolutely.
So wonder if that ties up with that. You know?
Well, totally it does, without a shadow of a doubt. And they do have bases all over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I know where there's a base in Australia, in Adelaide.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it's in the sea off Glenelg, which is a lovely place that I've been to, and the base is under the sea there, just off Glenelg.
Where's the British ones?
Isle of Wight.
well, in Wiltshire. I can definitely tell you. I know the entrances to 2 bases in Wiltshire.
ET bases or military bases?
ET bases.
Right.
ET bases. I've filmed the craft going in and out.
Right.
What do you think of the guy? I think his name is quite a while ago now. I think Barry King. What's your views on him?
Barry King, yeah, the name rings a bell. I'm not sure.
Some people think that he's got a lot of information about bases within the UK and kind of secret ET testing facilities and stuff. Other people think he's a complete fantasist and a complete delusional person.
Okay, well, you could say the same thing about me, couldn't you? You know, quite easily. But I'm just telling you as it is. But there's definitely a couple of. I mean, Silbury Hill, for instance. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite sure that's the entrance to a base there as well.
Wow.
I won't say where the other 2 entrances are, but it's quite possible that they're all part of one massive base.
I see. And these are different exits and entrances or something.
Yeah. They come and go from the same entrance.
Would this explain maybe why the military have got a presence down there, because they're trying to monitor them? Maybe.
Totally. That's exactly why they're there. Believe me. I mean, I've been harassed by Apache helicopter one day while I was filming the UFOs going in and out of the base, and this is in a field that's just in the middle of nowhere, where it's not part of any military test range or anything like that, you know, and I've got that on film too.
I was going to ask you about that actually, Robert. See, Neil, it happens. Yeah. It happens. Now, Robert, I've had the same thing, and at the peak of my kind of meditations and going down the psychic route, because I started off love and light, fluffy rainbows, and spiritualism. That's how I got into this.
Yeah.
And then I started getting the helicopters and stuff. Have you had, for instance, the cars flashing headlights at you constantly, the weird phone calls in the middle of the night, and people giving you weird looks in the street, things like that?
I can't say that I've had that. I've had knocks on the window upstairs in the bedroom window. Okay. Really babang, really quick. my wife heard it. You know, it shocked. I thought they were going to break the bloody window. Quite frankly, it was so sharp. Not front door. Somebody's knocked on the front door, and my wife went to the door immediately. There was nobody there. But with me, with the ETs, they just come when they feel like it, sort of thing, you know.
From what I understand, the people who get the contact from the ETs are the ones that get human interactions with dark forces that want to shut people up, basically, and basically harass them to keep them quiet.
That can be so, but I must say, you know, back at the end of 2008, I gave a talk on crop circles in Adelaide, in Australia. First of all, I went on the ABC radio at their big studios in Adelaide and answered questions live to Australia. That was exciting, you know, on crop circles. But I gave a talk, and this guy came to the talk who nobody had ever seen. It wasn't a big society, but he came and he sat near the door in the window, and he was athletic looking, maybe 30s, bald, no hair. And I gave my talk. During the talk, I was asked what I thought the purpose of the crop circles was. And I said that I had good reason to believe that they're a means of infusing energy into the ley line grid system on the planet. And that energy is essential for all life. It's what invigorates life on the planet. And I've got some other evidence for that too, but that's another story. And so that's what I said. But then after the talk, as you said before, Neil, people come up to you, they want to tell you their stories and stuff. Yeah. The best part of any talk, that is, of course. And then this guy waited patiently. He came up to me, and all he said was, "You're right about the crop circles, and the different patterns allow for different frequencies of energy to be infused." That's all he said. But then I knew this guy was something very, very special. And so the next thing he did, he shook my hand, but it was quite obvious that wasn't what they did up there, you know, because it was a bit awkward. But what he did then was he reached out and he took my left hand from my side and held it out like this. And with his right hand, he moved his hand around and in a circular motion, and I could feel the energy as anybody that's capable of feeling energy can. And then he moved the energy up my arm and then back again. And I'm thinking that that's probably an indication of what happens with the crop circles. The energy is put there and then it's moved out across the country, or down the ley lines. Okay, so I think that's what he was doing there. But then he started to tease the energy off the end of my fingers like this, and I could feel that. I can feel it now. But with his left hand, he was moving the energy across my solar plexus towards my left hand. Then all of a sudden, bear in mind that I'm used to feeling energy, and I've felt pretty strong energy sometimes. I mean, so strong I've had to pull my hand away. It's, you know, it almost bites you like a bloody a battery, you know. All of a sudden it went up like 100 times more than I've ever felt, but it wasn't unpleasant. And I knew that his aura and mine were merged. And he just looked at me and I looked at him and I just smiled, this beaming smile, and he did the same. And I knew he was an ET. He was a human ET. Wow. And he reached forward and he embraced me. And he didn't say another word. He just turned around, walked out the building, and that was that. We probably got in his craft and flew off, you know, wherever.
Did he have an Australian accent?
No, I don't think he had any accent.
Yeah, I just wondered, you know, like definitely not. Yeah, interesting.
No, he didn't. He didn't at all. I mean, I'm a great fan of George Adamski.
Yeah.
You know, I've read.
He has a bit of a mixed reputation, doesn't he? Some people, you know.
Yeah, well, if you've got something decent to say, you'll be attacked.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if you're getting flack, you're over the target, sort of thing.
Yeah,
you know, as they say.
Yeah.
And it was the same with George. What he was releasing, the Secret Services in America were well aware that George was getting visited by ETs, by human ETs. They were very, very interested. They didn't poo-poo him at all. But it's the same with anybody that's got something really good to say. They get attacked. You know,
what's your thoughts then if we go to Billy Meier?
Billy Meier, you were reading my mind, because I was just going to say Billy Meier again, another guy who's been attacked. He's absolutely genuine. The craft that he's photographed and filmed are real. There's no question in my mind about that. It's another guy, Paul Villa. You may not have heard of Paul Villa, but he in the 1960s, I think it was, he photographed a UFO in broad daylight. He took a series of photographs. He was actually asked by the ETs to go to that location just outside Albuquerque in the desert and take his camera and photograph them. But now the reason I've just come onto that is because on the 28th of December 1980, I was driving home with my wife on the Leek Road just out of Macclesfield here, and it'd be about 9 o'clock in the evening. It was a crystal clear night, stars shining, a bit frosty, and I saw a UFO up the road in front of me. It's a lot more information, but I did. So I went to I went through a twisty wooded section and I lost sight of it. Then I came out onto the straight, and at the end of the straight there was a lay-by, and I just had a feeling it was somewhere near there. So I pulled in, I got out of the car, and there above my head was a disc about 100 feet above my head, maybe 90 feet in diameter. And it completely blotted the sky out. Okay, it blotted the sky out. All I could see the stars around the bottom rim, in between the rim and the hills, the tops of the hills. And it was completely black underneath, a sooty black, much blacker than the sky. And then it was completely silent at that time. Then
what sort of shape? So it was a disc shape, did you say?
It was a disc. That's all I could make out from underneath, because I was right underneath it. And then there was some time slip. Something happened, and the craft moved. It from being right above me, it was there at a slightly different angle, and then it started to move away to the side horizontally. But it didn't go up, and it was only doing about 30 miles an hour, if that. And by now it was making this deep rumbling sound. And now I could see that it had got a dome on the top, and there were a row of what looked like windows all the way around the bottom rim. So I had plenty of time. So I counted the windows 3 times as it was flying away. And what I got was 11 and a half windows visible from a side-on view. Well, about I don't know, a year later, I was working in a lady's house. I had a carpet and upholstery cleaning business, and I stopped to eat my sandwiches. And as I often did, I kind of had a look at their books in their bookcase, because it's often quite interesting, isn't it? And there was a book about UFOs. And I thought, oh, I'll have a look at that. I opened the book, and there's a picture of my UFO.
Crikey.
Identical. And it's the one which Paul Villa photographed at Albuquerque, New Mexico. 11 and a half windows.
I think I know the picture, actually.
Yeah, you probably will. You will.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
But of course, Paul Villa was, attacked. And he was attacked by somebody called Coral Lawrenson. Her and her husband had a UFO society in America, and she arranged to go and see Paul at his mobile home kind of thing that he had. Mm-hmm. So Paul was a real gentleman. So he cleaned up and he made her some sandwiches and stuff like that. And so she arrived, and the first words out of her mouth was, "So how did you fake these photographs?" So Paul saw red, because he was a gent, and he sent her away. So from that moment on, those photographs were fake, and this is what the bad guys do,
Yeah.
Controlled opposition.
It reminds me a little bit of there was a schoolboy that photographed a craft that was likened to the George Adamski craft, and they called it the Adamski saucer or craft, didn't they? Yeah,
absolutely. That was at Coniston, in the Lake District.
Yeah,
and it's identical. It is the same thing.
Yeah.
But even more than that, that craft is at an angle, and using clever mathematics. A guy has worked out that it exactly matches George Adamski's craft. And in fact, I've got a photograph of a craft identical to George's in Australia back in the 1950s. Interestingly enough, over a field of sheep.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, so
which brings us to, Neil, have we got time to talk about animal mutilations?
I think we've got we're running late, but we can throw another 10 minutes into the show if people want to stay up late and listen to the darker side of pet experiences. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's go down the dark route.
Okay, for the faint-hearted, we're going to go into animal mutilations. If you love animals, which we all do, but you don't like to see the bad side of what happens in animal mutilations, please switch off now, because you might see some disturbing pictures.
No,
if you're
you won't.
watching on YouTube. Oh, but I've got photographs from David Cayton.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, Dave. Okay. Well, basically, I've been working with Dave Cayton and Phil Hoyle, but mostly with Dave from the word go, when he started doing his animal mutilation studies. And I've been with him, and I filmed mutilated sheep down in at Lydney on the Severn Estuary there. I think there was about 24 or 5 sheep on that particular occasion, with the typical injuries, shall we say. And also up at Todmorden up here, I've been with him to film a ewe that had been done in the same way, with the usual jaw strip, and I mean, it happens, and it's not just cattle, it's sheep, it's horses, it's pigs, it's you name it,
From what I understand, the very straight-laced veterinary surgeons come along and have a look, basically what they try and do is just sweep it under the carpet. Is that what you found in your experience?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Dave's had a hell of a job trying to get vet reports on.
It's DEFRA, isn't it? The organisation that run the.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it still is, but it certainly was. Yeah. Dave's been threatened by them. What can I say? I know Linda Moulton Howe personally. I spent quite a bit of time with Linda down in Wiltshire in the crop circles.
Have you ever been chased off farmland, either by farmers or by military or police or anything like that?
No, I've been, as I say, I was harassed by that Apache helicopter when I was filming the UFOs at the base.
Yeah.
And that was a bit scary, I have to say, because I was on my own and middle of nowhere sort of thing. And, you've got an Apache helicopter hovering, 100 yards away from you. at you, just about 20, 30 feet off the ground, and the pilot looking at you. You know, they know what I'm doing, and of course, and of course, my car was parked there, so you know they've got the equipment to get my registration number. They know who I am. Another occasion, I was filming at another base entrance. I know I'm jumping about a bit here, but not far from there, and this old lady came along in a Ford Fiesta, I think it was, and she drove up and parked up by me, and she wanted to know what I was doing. And I said, "Oh, I'm just filming a bit of nature and wildlife. It's lovely countryside round here, isn't it? You know." And then she started to talk about her husband, who happened to have been in the British Secret Service, and her son is still in the Secret Service. You know, I thought, oh, okay, right. So she was trying to warn me off, basically. I'm quite certain that they've got cameras in bushes and God knows what down there. Anyway, after quite a while, she drove off, but I thought this is not good, and so I got my camcorder, my tripod, I put it all in the back of the estate car, and I drove off back down the road. I got down to the T-junction, and just as I'm approaching the T-junction, this is at near All Cannings in excuse me, in the Pewsey Vale, and a police van comes around the corner, heading in my direction, but he was too late because he'd gone past me before, you know. But you never see police there at all. There's nothing there. It's only fields. So I know he was coming for me.
Yeah, there's no likely crimes happening in that area, is there?
No way.
So on the cattle mutilation front, obviously you mentioned Linda Moulton Howe there, and she did the Strange Harvest movie, which was back in the 70s or early 80s. I can't remember when it came out. Concerning cattle being mutilated in the big farms of America. But obviously you've talked about other things like sheep, and there's been horses. Now I remember very interesting that David Cayton pointed out when he came and did a talk for us at High Wycombe Paranormal Meetup Group. He showed us a load of mice that had been mutilated, and they'd all been laid out in a row, which was absolutely fascinating.
Never heard of that before.
Because I was posting adverts for David's talk coming up, and I always threw an advert into the Facebook group of the skeptics in the pub group, knowing they're going to go, you know. And of course they're saying, oh, that's all been solved by an American sheriff who saw it as just foxes eating the cattle and things like that. So, you know, the fact that, you know, what foxes place 5 or 6 mice that are mutilated all in a row, you know.
Well, in South America, in Argentina, where they were having a big problem with cattle mutilations, they blamed it on the, I don't know what it is, a red-necked mouse or something, I think. And in their newspapers in Argentina, they even had a drawing of a cow, and with all the bits missing that we know get taken in animal mutilation. You know, mutilation is not really the right word for it, and David would say the same. I'm sure it's a surgical procedure. You know, they take in specific parts.
Well, we're in the south of England, the county of East Sussex, just near the village of Alfriston, and we've come to look at this poor 2-year-old gelding, which has got the classic mutilation injuries. Today is the 25th of October, and it was found yesterday morning, the 24th, so we assume it had been killed somewhere in the small hours, possibly 2 to 4 in the morning. They don't really know for sure. So the animal's been dead for under 48 hours anyway. So the flies is taking a bit of interest now. but it's the carcass is in quite a good state. So they are anxious to get the post-mortem done as soon as possible, possibly in London at the Royal Veterinary College, although that's not finalised yet. So
how old is the animal, David?
It's 2 years old, so it was young and fit. It was in the field with 2 other horses the day before with no problem. It was a night of a full moon, and it's been reported to Richard via a friend of the landowner who saw a UFO here 2 to 3 weeks ago, which was over a barn up the valley about a quarter of a mile from where the pony was found here, and this little barn had horses in, which we think might be significant.
Can you just tell us, David, which of the modus operandi have you found on this animal?
Yes, well, starting at the nose end, we've got a typical mouth and jaw strip.
Mm-hmm.
The tongue is unusually in place, and I can't see any cuts in the tongue. Then there's a massive wound in the left neck, left side of the neck, and the left ear is missing, taken right down to the skull. The throat organs removed, probably the larynx, the esophagus, and trachea, and the edges have got superb, typical smooth edges to the skin surrounding this wound. There's no blood at all. When I say no blood at all, there's a bit of pooling from the tissue, which is what's a normal thing that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we've taken several blood samples to do various tests to see if there's any anomalies within the blood.
Have you got an inkling of why they're doing it? I mean, I suspect it's probably some kind of scientific endeavour, but why so open and why so public? They don't hide it.
They don't. They drop the carcasses off deliberately for us to see. I don't know, rubbing it in a bit, maybe.
Yeah, seems like that.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, don't any of your ET kind of contacts shed any light on this? Yeah, you know, not. I mean, the ones you've had encounters with. Do they tell you about it?
Reptilians are involved with a lot of this. Yes. And it ain't good, that's for sure. I'm not saying all reptilians are bad, because I know they're not. But there's certain ones here that are not good at all. But I don't know. I don't know what to say about them, really. I mean, it's you know, Dave wanted me to, you know, help him and go along with him a lot more with the animal mutes than I actually did, and the reason I didn't was because I was more involved with the abduction side of things.
Yeah.
You know, I was wanting to. I mean, like our friend Gary from Australia, when he first met us down in Wiltshire at Pewsey, actually, I was filming a crop circle there, and I was just above the White Horse at Pewsey, and he was in the field down below, and John Mack was there in the field with him. You know, Professor John Mack.
Yeah.
But Gary saw me up there and felt incredibly drawn, so he climbed up the hill just to meet me. He didn't know me from Adam, and again, that's ET stuff going on there. And so we took him under our wing, David and I, and we took him back to our caravan site, and we fed him and stuff like that. And Dave showed him the mutilations in his book that he has with him, you know. But when Gary got home to Australia, he visited a relative who had a farm, and he at the back of the farmhouse, when he went outside, there just a few yards from the farmhouse was a classic mutilated sheep with the jaw strip, tongue cut, you know, the whole damn thing. So that's far too much of a coincidence in my book to be just a coincidence. I'm quite sure that you know, we are listened to, we are monitored. all the time. I'm quite sure that, you know, there's ETs around even now, listening to what we're saying, you know. And so, but I'm used to it. I'm quite comfortable with it.
Do you think that this is our planet, or do you think that we're just like animals on it in a big farm?
Yeah, I believe that we were created here.
Yeah.
We're not a naturally evolved species. In the Popol Vuh, which is the Mayan old ancient book, it talks about the beings that came here making us. And the first attempt was pretty bad, apparently. Was hardly any brains at all. The second one was too good, was too much like them, with abilities such as remote viewing. It says that in the Popol Vuh. And so they dumbed us down. That is why I believe we have a huge brain, which we use about 6 or 7% of. Nature doesn't usually do that, does it? It doesn't go to all the trouble to make a lot of effort to make a brain like ours, and then stop you from using most of it. You know, we're deliberate. We're being controlled.
Yeah. So apparently, I mean, there's a theory goes that some of the DNA that is switched off is about to be switched on. Have your ET contacts alluded to that kind of thing?
Not particularly, but I believe that's the case. Certainly, people who have ET contacts, good ones, suddenly develop abilities. I mean, for instance, one of the daughters of my friend from Angel Mountain, who was, I don't know, perhaps 7 or 8 years of age, my friend got summoned to see the headmaster at the school, and he was concerned that his daughter had been playing up or something, you know. But when he got there, the headmaster said, no, what it is, your daughter has suddenly become incredibly intelligent, and we don't seem to be able to teach her anything. And we suggest that she be sent to a special school. But anyway, when she was when her dad spoke to her about this, even at that age, she said, "Oh, don't worry, Dad, I'll sort it out. I don't want to go to a special school. I want to stay with my friends." So she pretended to be not quite so bright after that.
Oh my God.
But she's still got about, I don't know, 15 O levels and about 7 A levels and God knows what else, you know.
Right.
So people are being enhanced, is what I'm saying. You're right about that.
And as we close our show, just last question. I'm sure Andy's got another question, but your Angel Mountain friend, he was given these psychic abilities by ET.
Yeah.
Now, whether that was intentional, I don't know, but the fact that he can communicate with ET and spirits of the afterlife, was that the ET saying, "Look, we want you to communicate with the spirits of the afterlife. There's a reason for this"?
Yes, I believe so. I'm quite certain that he has an implant in his left eye.
Yeah.
The optician has actually found it. Well, he don't find the implant, but he's found the hole in his eye. He thought he'd maybe had an accident when he was a kid, you know, been shot in the eye, you know. But just interestingly, when he went to the optician some while ago to have some new glasses, I've not been to the opticians for this, but apparently there's like a robot camera thing which goes onto your it focuses on your eye, individual eye. So it does one eye. So which it did. It went, you know, bzz, 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 it got onto this eye, and took a photograph, no problem. Then it went across to the other eye, and it just simply couldn't focus on it at all. It wouldn't. So the guy had to do it manually. He said, "I've never ever had to do that before."
That's weird.
Crikey.
Yeah.
Bionic.
And I asked my friend, you know, when you see spirit or ETs, will you cover your other eye? Cover your eye, one eye, and see if you can still see them. And if he covers that left eye, he can't, and just has his right eye open, he can't see them.
That's bizarre.
So it's an implant.
Wow.
And I'm sure a lot of people are like that, but they just don't realize.
But he can also hear them as well. So he must have something in his ear, or telepathy is
Oh,
enhanced
crikey.
or something.
Oh, he's had all sorts of flipping stuff go, and some of it not good, and some painful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Any last questions, Andy?
No, only Robert, if you want to give your website and how people can get your books and
please
things.
do. Yeah.
Okay, well, I just have a website. It's Macclesfield UFO Society. Just Google that and you will come to me, and there's a link on there. You can email me through my website and I'll get back to you.
Excellent. And you mentioned that Spirit had been prompting you, or someone's been prompting you to write a book.
God, yes.
Has that started at all?
Well, I've done little bits, here and there, but maybe I'm a bit lazy. I don't know. But the problem is the story's ongoing. It hasn't stopped, and that's one of the main messages I would like to give, is that people have an ET encounter and they think that's the end of it. It never is. Once that's happened to you, it's going to carry on happening all through your life.
It's a saga.
My mum was still having ET stuff when she was in her 80s.
Wow.
So, and both my sisters, my nephew, my niece, we're all the same. It's in the family.
Wow.
And there's probably maybe an Irish Celtic connection there, which might have something to do with it as well. Because my grandma, her relatives, she's from Ireland,
Right.
And people who have Celtic backgrounds seem to be quite psychic, don't they?
Yeah. The mystics.
So there's so much, isn't there?
Wow.
So
thank you very, very much on behalf of the Paranormal Peep Show from myself and Andy and Unite Planet, who will obviously be watching this later, and also on the Paranormal UK Radio Network for listeners on the podcast for that. Thank you very much to Robert Hulse for taking part with us. It's been absolutely fascinating. And as you said, you've only scratched the surface. So we would love to invite you back maybe 6 months down the road or something like that, and see what other implants you've had.
Oh, yeah, well, there's a lot to tell on that side of things.
Well, thanks for coming on, Robert. And I just want to say to people, if they want to see more of the Paranormal Peep Show, go to, let's see if my finger can go here, Paranormal Peep Show. What is it? PAUKradio.com. And also my own little thing on this side. Tune-in events. That's our psychic. We're not really doing events at the moment, obviously because of COVID, but we are doing online readings. So if anyone's wanting an online reading, then please go to that website there, and hopefully it will be up and running. But if not, join us on Facebook.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much, Robert. Lovely to have you again. And
my
take
pleasure.
care. And for those listening, you can catch us on YouTube, also on the Paranormal UK Radio Network, and we're also podcasted out to various other platforms like Amazon, iTunes, Spreaker, and all the other podcasting hosts. So check us out there. Thank you very much indeed. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next month. Good night.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Trees with the keys that spin upon the breeze.